Hi guys! Okay, I decided after the last live stream, I'm just gonna pre-record these because even though I fixed my microphone situation, I noticed that if there's something with the connection, because it's a live stream, it affects the quality of the video. And I noticed because of that, there were some pauses and glitches and the sound still had some issues. And because this is a reading, I want you to be able to listen to it and enjoy it like an audiobook. So it just makes sense to pre-record these, and then at the very end, maybe on the last chapter, we will do a live stream if you want, and we can talk about it. So, chapter 3, ready for the challenge. As a child, life was like a toy chest full of colorful surprises. I always wondered what I would pull out next. New toys, broken toys, it never mattered. A toy was a toy. This grateful attitude of mine has carried on throughout my life. However, it wasn't always easy. In the early years, I felt I had a lot of struggles on my plate that most kids in the neighborhood did not have to deal with. My parents divorced when I was 8 years old, and during the previous 4 years, we had moved 3 times. From age 7 to 8, I went to 3 different elementary schools, and life seemed to be quite the whirlwind. Just when I had finally settled into my 3rd school and was feeling as normal could get, I experienced my first moment of real failure and humiliation. My 3rd grade teacher, Mrs. Flinton, informed me in front of my entire class that I did not invent the alphabet. Yes, up until that enlightening and humbling moment, I had truly believed that I had invented the alphabet. My reasoning was from an early childhood memory of being 18 months old and singing the ABCs to anyone and everyone who would listen. They would always applaud in amazement, and I figured over time that it was because I was singing something to them that they had never heard before. If they hadn't heard it before, well, I must have made it up. Therefore, I had invented the ABCs. My mom loved introducing me to people and would say, "Watch what she can do." Then I would sing my song and watch their faces light up with joy. So naturally, when we began to learn about the origins of the alphabet to prepare us to learn cursive writing, I had to let the class know that our textbook was wrong. By the end of that day, I was second-guessing myself about everything. Subtitle, The Long Road Ahead. I went through the sudden death of a stepmom who had battled alcoholism, a quick transition to a new stepmom who made it clear that my siblings and I were a part of the package that she was not thrilled about, being raised on church welfare by a single mother who could not be around because of her work schedule, and dealing with the everyday trauma of being the middle child, even amongst stepchildren. Some days I felt completely alone in my despair. I knew that life had to get better. Well, if it wasn't going to get better, then I had to be proactive. Failure was something that I had seen all too often in my delicate little world. Failed marriages, families, values, morals, relationships, personal battles, finances, and employment. This was almost too much for a little girl to comprehend. I quickly decided that I would not follow this path. My life was going to be different. Every opportunity to move onward and upward, I would take. I was going to make something of my life. I was going to be successful. Subtitle, Success Comes. My first taste of success came in 5th grade. I had been selected to play a star role in the school musical Mary Poppins. I was going to be Mrs. Banks. Eventually, I was told that my unique voice and blonde hair had won me the part. But that didn't matter. What really put me on cloud 9 that month was learning that my husband, Mr. Banks, was going to be played by my 5th grade crush, John Doherty. Of course, names have all been changed. I was the envy of almost every girl in the 5th grade. Life couldn't be better. How I always looked forward to early morning practice because that meant rehearsing the hugging scene over and over with John. I even had a solo scene where I had to come barging through the audience, singing at the top of my lungs in a cappella, Sister Suffragette. The fright of opening night was quickly dissipated when I remembered that the a cappella solo would eventually lead to the hugging scene. Keeping that in mind got me through the entire performance without one mistake. At the end of the night, children ran up to the stage asking me to sign their programs. Though I ended up signing only 7 autographs, I was a star. The following year, my positive attitude and drive to succeed led me to be unanimously voted by the entire 6th grade as president of the Creative Pursuits Club. I was selected to be on the competing team from our school. That year, Altaview Elementary was put on the map when we took first place in the state competition. I had rewritten the lyrics to the Disney song Under the Sea, and we had created musical instruments and costumes representing the characters in The Little Mermaid. I helped choreograph our little dance that we did, and we won. There was a news camera filming us, and we shined in our performance. We were greeted with a hero's welcome back at our school. Subtitle: A tribute to my accomplishments. Before I go on with the timeline, it's been long overdue to say that there was a certain woman in my life who made all of my successes that year possible. Her name was Sandy King, Miss King. Now, I did not change her name, so that is her real name, Sandy King. Miss King was the only teacher I had ever had who believed in me 100%. She pushed me to succeed in everything I did and instilled in me a drive to reach my goals and set them high. I have never forgotten her and have always wanted to personally thank her for making me the person I am today. I'm gonna pause real quick and sneak in that I did call her after I wrote this book and I mailed her a copy. This was back when we still used phone books, so I pulled up all the people with the last name King and the first letter S and went through the entire phone book and called every one of them until I found her. And I thanked her for being my teacher and inspiring me and sent her a copy of this book. Don't know if she ever got it or read it, but hopefully she finds this video and is reminded of how amazing she truly is. Miss King was not like all the other teachers. She bent the rules, pushed the limits, and made education exciting. She cared about us. I remember a few occasions when students would move away or it was the last day of school. She would throw a going away party and later get emotional. I knew she really cared about us. It was in the fall of 1992 when Miss King asked the Creative Pursuits Club if we would like to try out for a Junior Olympic luge camp. I had never heard of the luge and really had never followed the Olympics. Nonetheless, I was excited to try out. All Miss King had to do was put the vision in my head and I became whatever she conjured up. It was no surprise to her that when she asked me to try out for the camp, I would do it. I mean, really do it. On a cool Saturday morning up in Park City, Utah, the tryouts began. There was a large hill dotted with orange traffic cones. That was our obstacle course. We were to walk to the top of the hill, lie down on a sled with wheels, push off down the hill while facing the clear blue sky, and maneuver our way around the orange cones at what seemed like 60 miles per hour. Not to mention, if you knocked any cones over, you were pretty much scratched from the list. As an 11-year-old girl with zero athletic ability, the odds were against me. However, I never do anything without doing it 100%. So I strapped on my helmet, got into the zone, and after a quick silent prayer, let the sled become a victim to gravity. I raced off down the asphalt as streaks of orange cones and cheering kids blurred my vision. Putting pressure on the leg of the sled, I managed to carefully turn every corner with ease. Though my real goal was just to not run anyone over, I ended up exceeding my own expectations. I remember watching others from our group crash into the gutter and topple over the cones. In fact, there were some who chickened out entirely and decided to not even give it a shot. I was proud of myself just for trying, and when I learned that we were going to go a second time, I happily obeyed. Before heading on over to the alpine slide for some fun, the scout or coach told us that we would receive a response in the mail in the next month. Whoever made it would spend 2 weeks in Lake Placid, New York, training on the real ice track with real Olympic athletes for a spot on the Junior Olympic luge team. It would be a surreal experience. Only 25 kids would be selected to go to New York, and that just wasn't from Utah. They were scouting out Colorado, California, and other states to find their 25. I wasn't sure what they were looking for or if I even demonstrated the potential that would be required. Remember, 2 weeks ago, I didn't even know what the luge was. All I could think about was how proud I was of myself for trying and how I couldn't wait to go for a ride on the alpine slide. Subtitle, Reflecting on Your Own Life. Time to pause the story for just a moment. I'd like you to think about a time in your life when you passed up an opportunity to try something exciting and possibly life-changing. It might have been something so exciting that it frightened you. It made you nervous to think about the real possibility of everything working out beyond what you had hoped for. It also made you nervous to think about the fear of failing or getting hurt. If there was a risk involved, it made you nervous to anticipate what you might jeopardize if you took the chance. It just seemed safer to pass up the opportunity and resume life as usual. Not having control over the outcome of a situation can be a little scary and is almost always the reason why people give up before they even try. If we never try, then we never learn. Being okay with the outcome, whatever it may be, before it happens is the key to being successful at trying. Yes, I said it. To fail at trying is worse than to fail after trying. I believe if you try with all your effort, then you are successful regardless of what happens. You see, in the end, what you learn from these experiences is far more valuable than avoiding opportunities and thus avoiding growth. Courage and faith is what great people are made of. It's what helps us grow and strengthens us. To deny yourself that is far more damaging than a bruised ego when something doesn't turn out how you had hoped. A month passed by after my luge experience, and I had forgotten all about it. It was a nice, beautiful, sunny afternoon, and my best friend Sadie and I were walking home from school talking about all the important things involved in the life of a sixth grader. As we reached my house, we said goodbye, and she headed on further down the street for home. I walked over to the mailbox, reached in, and grabbed the stack of mail, warm from the heat of the afternoon sun. There on the top, I noticed a large white envelope addressed to my name. It was unusual for me to receive mail being just 11 years old, so I handled it with caution and a bit of curiosity. I noticed up in the corner that the sender was from New York. New York? New York! I knew what this was. My heart began to pound as I realized what I held in my hand. It was as if thousands of people were standing around me, waiting for me to open it and read the verdict. There wasn't a soul outside, but it didn't feel that way. I dropped the rest of the mail on the lawn and tore open the envelope. I reached in and pulled out the letter on top and closed my eyes. Was I ready to find out? It would be very exciting to be able to go to New York. I had never been on an airplane, and the furthest I had ever ventured with my family was Disneyland. If I hadn't been selected, then maybe I could just never mention it to anyone. I'm sure most people had forgotten anyways. I held the letter close to my chest and looked up at the clear blue sky. I was ready to read it. My heart still pounding, like a 3-year-old with a set of new drums, I looked at the first word at the top of the paragraph. Dear Miss Willardson. So far, so good. On behalf of the United States Luge Association, you have been selected. There it was. I couldn't believe it. I read it over and over again just to make sure my eyes were not deceiving me. When I realized it was the real deal, I ran down the street waving the letter in the air, whooping and hollering that I had made it. I ran straight to Sadie's house to shout the exciting news. After spreading the word all down the street, I ran home to tell my family. Remember, this was before the internet and major use of cell phones, so it was next to near impossible to spread news fast. Minutes seemed like hours as I waited for family members to return home from school and work. It really meant nothing to me that I would be training for the luge with possibilities of being a future athlete. I was just excited to fly on an airplane. That night, when my mom returned home from work at her second job, I shared the news with her. She was excited, but that excitement quickly turned to dismay. "We don't have the money," she said. My heart sank. I knew she was right. "What if I earn it?" I asked hopefully. "I could babysit, clean, do whatever it takes." She saw my determination and decided to make some quick phone calls to see what she could do. Then the first idea came. "We'll get you sponsored," she said. "Sponsored?" I asked. Wasn't that a word that only related to Michael Jordan, Nike, and Gatorade? "We'll solicit local businesses and see if we can't get someone to fund your trip." That sounded pretty easy. Little did I know, this was not going to be easy. Over the next few days, my mom and I went around town trying to find businesses willing to help us out. After a few letdowns, my mom remembered that our neighbor's family owned a golf course. We paid them a visit, and they said they would see what they could do. By the end of the week, we had a sponsor. It was a lot, but it wasn't enough to cover the full cost of the flight and the training camp fees. I still needed to earn quite a bit more. As family members chipped in, our little pot of money began to grow, but it still wasn't enough. 5 other kids from my 6th grade had also been selected to be on the team of 25. They were all in the same boat as I. It was then that my hero, Miss King, came to the rescue. She put together a candy bar fundraiser so that we could earn the difference. I was ever so grateful for her efforts to see us succeed. Subheading, giving it your all. As I mentioned earlier, putting 100% of your effort into trying will always make you successful. With that in mind, it's important to remember that the effort part is never easy. I spent many winter nights sitting on a frozen folding chair with a small handwritten sign in front of the local grocery store trying to sell my candy bars. These candy bars were $1 a piece, and the same candy bars could be purchased inside the grocery store for half the price. Many people who realized that passed on the offer, while others bought a candy bar just because they felt sorry for me. I remember some nights feeling so cold and defeated that I just wanted to go home and call it quits. Was flying on an airplane really worth this kind of effort and sacrifice? All my friends were at home in their nice warm living rooms watching TV and enjoying a hot meal. I was in a frigid blizzard, all by myself, begging every customer that approached the grocery store entrance to buy a really expensive candy bar. My starving stomach never ceased to growl. We could never afford the pleasures of candy bars in our home. In fact, a few months earlier, I had gone to the neighbors, and instead of asking to borrow sugar, eggs, or milk, I asked to borrow candy bars. I took them home and gobbled them up in my bedroom. Now, the chocolate bars lying in front of me that I was supposed to sell seemed awfully tempting. This happened night after night until I finally earned enough to pay for the trip. Well, I went on to have one of the best experiences of my life, traveling with 5 of my good school friends and their parents all the way to the other side of the country was quite the adventure. Once there, I never realized why we were really there. I just enjoyed the unlimited access to the gigantic cafeteria that seemed to outshine any Vegas buffet I had ever seen. The endless supply of king-size candy bars, cable TV, and no bedtime curfew. I was meeting kids from other states and getting autographs from real Olympic athletes like Cami Myler. This was paradise. It was later when I learned that this experience came with a second opportunity. We were being timed for speed and tested for skill. Those who excelled would go on to more training in hopes of one day being on the U.S. Olympic luge team. Of course, I was oblivious to all of this, as I was just there to have fun. Weren't we all? I wore a thick winter coat, snow pants, and a scarf every time I raced the track. No one had told me that that was a bad idea. Because I looked like the Marshmallow Man, I was the opposite of aerodynamic. Having never crashed or fallen off my sled, I thought I was doing great. To my dismay, on our flight home, I learned that I was the only one who didn't get the memo about the taboo of heavy insulated clothing and the importance of our scores and performance. It was then I realized that this opportunity could have led to so much more if I'd not just been there to have a fun time. Later, one of our 6 was called to go back to Lake Placid. He trained for a couple more years. I think there might have been 2 who made it, but only one who chose to go back. Did I fail, you might wonder? It's all about perception. At first, I felt like a failure when I realized I didn't race to my full potential, especially when kids I knew were selected to go on. Then I realized that I didn't really want to be an Olympic athlete. I just wanted the experience. I was blessed to have the experience, and I had worked hard to have it. Therefore, I consider this event in my life a success. I needed to thank my Heavenly Father, and by doing so, He would further bless me according to His will. There's a scripture at the bottom of the page, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 18. In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Jesus Christ concerning you. Subheading, an uphill struggle. This experience gave me the confidence I needed to move on to junior high. I felt like I could conquer the world. To my surprise, junior high ended up being nothing like I had anticipated. You know the saying, don't ever put all your eggs in one basket. Well, I learned that lesson all too well in junior high and again in high school. I had invested all of my time, energy, faith, and hope into my best friend, Sadie. We were inseparable. I always had faith that she had my back and I had hers. That faith gave me hope that I could survive those dreaded teenage years. Well, sooner or later in life, challenges come and we usually are never ready for them. My friend Sadie became sick and missed what seemed like 2/3 of junior high. She attended off and on, and when she was there, she had a different agenda than mine. My family had always encouraged me to branch out and make new friends. I did my best, but there didn't seem to be anyone who could fill that void. Besides my quest to find new friends, I also had big shoes to fill. My older brother and sister had left behind great reputations at the school. They had given the name Willardson a whole new meaning. No one seemed to care about my first name. I was referred to as Krista and Cameron's sister. Never was it rubbed in my face more than in gym class. Coach Collier said to me on day 1, your brother and sister set track records in my class. Willardson, looks like you didn't get the athletic gene in the family. It's a shame. What happened to the teachers in junior high? Their souls were black. They were nothing like Miss King. After that day forward, I decided that if my teachers weren't going to believe in me, then I would believe in me. Nothing would feel better than showing Coach Collier how wrong he was. That's exactly what I did. The day soon came when we left the gym to run outside on the real track. Boy, did I show him. Though I don't remember my exact time, I do remember coming in first and second every time from that day on. I earned Coach Collier's respect and he never said another word to me about it again. Miss King would have been proud. The following year, I had new obstacles in my gym class. I had a bully. Anna was a popular girl, always surrounded by her posse. My new gym teacher was really nice to me, and it helped that she didn't know who my brother and sister were. I enjoyed her class and did my best to perform well. Whether it was soccer, volleyball, or indoor hockey, she always told me that she was impressed with my skill and drive. This made me an easy target for the class bully. Anna would wait for me in the locker room and get right in my face, making all kinds of animal noises and degrading comments. She never held back in the halls or parking lot. Anywhere I saw her, I could expect a grand display. Truthfully, I was worried that one day she would become physically violent and I would have to defend myself. The thought of her gave me anxiety, and I dreaded going to school each day. I tried to toughen up by wearing my brother's clothing to school. If I could have a little bit of tomboy in me, then maybe she would leave me alone. One day in gym class, we were being graded on shooting hoops. From the free throw line, we had 10 tries to make a basket. My turn came and I made 10 out of 10. My teacher was so impressed that she told me to try out for the upcoming 3-on-3 tournaments. That did not sit well with Anna, and she really ganged up on me in the locker room. For that very reason, I needed to do this. I signed up and was placed on a team with 2 girls who later played on high school basketball teams. Yes, I could shoot hoops, but I knew nothing about basketball. It was foreign to me. It didn't take long for them to realize this, and I became the invisible team player. There were parents, kids, and teachers on the sidelines shouting and cheering. Though no one was there cheering for me, I still played my best. I was proud of myself for trying. Our team took 3rd place because of me. If it weren't for me, they would have taken 1st. They knew this, but they did their best to be nice to me. We may have lost that day, but I had won. My bully left me alone after that, and I had proven to myself that building confidence was far more valuable than playing it safe. Trying was empowerment, not winning. The memory of losing would always be a reminder that I had tried. That was a valuable learning experience that has impacted me for years to come. Subheading, your cheer section. Can you think of a time in your life when you were your own cheer section? Sometimes you have to be, and it's perfectly okay. After all, if you don't believe in yourself, then who will? Confidence comes from within. Without realizing it, you teach people how to perceive you by your own example of how you perceive yourself. If you believe in yourself, then that confidence shines through and others will believe in you too. It's important to recognize that even when you feel all alone in your struggles, the Lord has your back. Always. He knows you better than you know yourself, and He is always cheering for you. When I realized this in my own life, it made all the difference. Scriptures. Psalms 38, verse 21. Forsake me not, O Lord. O my God, be not far from me. Psalms 118, verse 8. It is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man. And 2 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 16. I rejoice, therefore, that I have confidence in you in all things. Subheading, life continues. As I endured junior high, I kept on, knowing that one day life would get better. Eventually, I was nominated for Student of the Month, and I won. It was a big deal in our school. There were only 9 winners each school year, and our student body was rather large. I was very surprised when they announced my name at the assembly and handed me the plaque. This meant more than just an award to me. It meant that some teacher in our school actually cared and appreciated me. I later found out that it was Mrs. Ward. And yes, that's her real name. She reminded me a lot of Miss King. Because my brother and sister had both been Student of the Month before, I was happy to carry on the legacy. Though insignificant to some, this was very significant in building up my confidence and preparing me for the next challenge, high school. Okay, and that's it for today's reading. That is the end of chapter 3. I would love to hear down in the comments some of your guys' experiences that you can relate to, whether junior high or high school. Did you have a time in your life where you had an opportunity, but you felt as though you were facing that opportunity on your own? You didn't have the experience, the skills, the knowledge, but someone believed in you. They believed enough in you to give you that opportunity, to invite you. And how did that work out for you? What did you learn from it? Please share down in the comments and let's keep this conversation going. Thanks so much for listening today, you guys. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next week. Hi, I'm Lindsey Rietzsch, the creator of Hydro Heal, a product that's been changing dry skin for almost 2 decades. I created Hydro Heal back in 2008 as a solution for my own dry feet. Countless pedicures and dermatologist visits weren't making a difference. And who has the time or energy for this method? Word on the street spread, and Hydro Heal gained the attention of Shark Tank investors and venture capitalists, launching it on a nationwide TV campaign, gaining interest and attention from celebrities on live TV. See it to believe it demos and try before you buy? Put Hydro Heal in the spotlight, selling out of product at every show. After my feet were transformed, I decided to test it on eczema, dry lips and hands, athlete's foot, and cradle cap. And the results were incredible. Brand new skin in just 7 days. But it gets even better. Hydro Heal was also tested on a recovering hospital patient with an ongoing leg wound that would not close. After 3 days, this was the result. A wound that closed, healthy skin, and doctors were amazed. So how does Hydro Heal work? It's a solid ointment made from natural ingredients that turns into a liquid on contact with your skin, seeping down into deep cracks, while acting like a bandage, creating an invisible barrier on the surface, protecting your skin from outside elements, allowing it to naturally repair from the inside out. Start feeling more comfortable in your skin today, because everyone should love their skin. Click down below for a special offer or visit hydroheal.com.